How do you prove 1 plus 1?
How you prove 1 plus 1?
How do you prove it?
That's an axiom. It's like a given. It's
Excuse me. You're just being, this shows you that just shows you all are believing in something. You're not even being scientific. I'll tell you how you prove it. It's really logical. The same as Buddha says, you prove emptiness. You listen first to the instructions, but you've got to have confidence the person who's telling you 1 plus 2 is accurate. If some idiot tells you 1 plus 1 is 17 and you don't know the difference, so at least your mummy, she's probably chosen, hopefully she's chosen a decent teacher, right? So you go to school and you've never heard 1 plus 1 is 2 before, have you? So you don't know it's true, do you? And forget relativity, we're talking 1 plus 1 is 2. Are we with me, people? So you've got to have to prove it first. So that means, and that's what, so there's 2 things. When you prove it, there are 2 things happening. You're experiencing it for yourself and you're verifying it. Will we agree with that? 1 plus 1 is 2. So your teacher says to you, Robina, 1 plus 1 is 2. Write it down. 1 plus 1 equals. So what I'd have to first know what 1 means intellectually. I'd have to know what plus means. I'd have to get my head around those concepts, wouldn't I? Quite complicated 5-year-old, 4-year-old. I'd have to know what equals means. I'd have to know what 2 means. Are they the components? This is dependent arising. They're the components you have to learn. Do you agree with me? A given, you're rubbish. You're just a believer. Are you hearing me here? Are you hearing me, honey? Okay, then what do? I've got to go home and do my homework. Oh, Mummy, she told me that 1 plus 1 is 2. She says I've got to prove it to myself. Oh, what am I going to... So you've got to go home. Now, this is an interesting point. If she's a Buddhist, she would say, Robina, take this information, go home, sit at your desk, get some concentration, which is the first mode of meditation, so you can focus your mind. Then I want you to go to the second mode of meditation, and I want you to get some insight into this. Are you hearing me? So what would you do? First you've got to concentrate. If you can't concentrate for more than a second, you will never prove that 1 plus 1 is 2. So you've got to have concentration first. Then you've got the second mode of meditation. The goal is insight. Oh, I get it. That's called an insight. You with me? But what's your method? Well, you know, if you're a Tibetan Buddhist, you've heard of a thing called analytical meditation, right? You agree? We go, oh, what's that? Well, can I tell you what it is, please? I'm sorry to disappoint you. It's very embarrassing. It's 14th century terminology. First of all, the Tibetan word to meditate, this is a shock, is the verb to familiarize. No more and no less. To familiarize. And you go, well, familiarize my mind, obviously, with what? Well, here in this context, you get some concentration first. Now you go to the second mode, and the goal is to get insight into this little puzzle she gave you. And the method you use is what Tibetan Buddhists, Tsongkhapa, would call analytical meditation. Well, if meditation is familiarizing your mind, we would say that's called learning. You with me? The first one, analytical, it's a fancy word for the verb to think about it. So you use the idea, you think about 1 plus 1 is 2, so that you familiarize your mind with that concept. Are we communicating? Is this how you would prove 1 plus 2 to yourself? You might use your blocks, but you might use sums. You might be quick. You might be very intelligent and get it quickly. And then you go, I get it. And that's an experience. You agree? This is how you get enlightened. All the way to emptiness and perfection. And I am not exaggerating. It's just that we mystify this process. And that's why if we think the first mode of meditation is the only one, then you're just going to have focusing till the cows come home. Focusing for eternity. Then what? Who cares? You've got to use that focus in the second mode, where you do the clear, logical analysis of the music, of the IT information, of the theories, of the recipe, of the maths, of whatever it might be. You use your intelligence based on concentration, and within that system it has to be coherent and logical, and then slowly the intellectual knowledge becomes experiential until you perfect it. Would we agree that's how we've learned everything on this planet? Do we agree or not?
Yep.
What do you think, Abraham?
Absolutely.
I think that you've kind of started from the wrong place.
Can't hear you, darling. Of course he's going to think that. He's got all these ideas. So don't go any further. No, I don't want your view. Be quiet. No, that's not what I want to hear. Forget it. Abraham.
It's about numbers.
Abraham, this is my method. So if you don't like it, darling, just relax. I know it must be so painful for you. I'm so sorry, darling.
Can I say one thing?
No, you can't.
Okay.
Just relax.
Sorry about my voice.
No, relax. It's okay. So anyway, no, what's your question about this method?
It's not question, just it's
What?
we prove it to ourselves. We just we
it-
get it from the teacher or from because it's a preconceived.
So you agree with what I'm saying?
I
Well,
agree.
good, fantastic. That's enough. Good. So are we seeing this? Do we hear now? You, what's your name, darling?
Myself.
Neil. Can you hear what I'm saying now, Neil?
Yeah.
And you know what? From here to relativity, would you agree that this is the process? So that means you've got to start with the beginning and prove 1 + 1 is 2. And that means you've experienced the truth of you experienced it and you verified it. And that's what's required religiously every second all the way to relativity. That's how you prove relativity. It's a profound step-by-step process that's identical and exactly and precisely what you do with Buddha's information. There is no more and no less than that. That's the process. What's your question about that? Or what's your but?
What do we do to experience karma?
You see? You just I've told you already several times yesterday, but you can't hear it. We can't hear it. We can't hear it. How do you, so you take the, you start with a theory, don't you?
I see what
You have to start with a theory. What else do? You have to start with a theory from a teacher you hope is not telling you a lie. You've got to start with a theory, and then what would you do with it? Just like what would you do with it then? But not just, karma, waiting for a penny to drop. Like that's mystical. You've got to think it through and know the theories, study it well, understand it logically, theoretically, and this is the interesting point. If, let's say, acupuncture is a valid system, not just an interesting hippie idea, putting a needle here and cross your fingers, but a valid system, would you agree that first it's got to be coherent theoretically? Would you agree with that? That's how you start, precious. Karma, Buddha's saying it's it's his theoretical model of the universe based on his experience. We don't have to believe it, but you're interested in it, so you have to learn it. That's why we're so addicted to saying, I believe in karma. That's like saying you believe in mathematics, because we assume it's religion and you can't prove it. So then we say we have to believe, because we're not thinking it through like this. You start with the theories. You can't do more. But slowly, as you get single point, even before you get single point concentration, you're going to see it's more and more coherent. This fits with that, fits with this, fits with that, and it becomes a bigger vision. And it's just theoretical. And you enjoy the process. And then slowly, as you get single point of concentration, that's when you access a subtle level of your mind, and that's where you can now prove it to be true. That's literally the answer. Literally, Neil. So one step at a time and enjoy it. But we can't leap over the theoretical. Do you understand my point, Neil? Good. So, okay, let's look at the nuts and bolts. I keep telling you it never comes. So now we do it. I'm sorry, Abraham. Must make it crazy. Go on.
So, if I understand correctly, then you have a theory and you prove it.
That's what's right. One step at a time.
How
One
do
step
you-
at a time, first theoretically.
Okay, so where does karma fit in? Because karma is a theory as well.
That's what I'm talking about here,
How
karma.
can it
That's what I'm
be-
talking about, right here. That's our discussion, karma.
How can that be proven?
That's what I just said to him. So I didn't say it properly, you didn't hear it. That's exactly, with Neil, is exactly our conversation. It's exactly the conversation. So I'll say it again. It's okay. You have to learn the theories first. Would you accept that? If it is, as Buddha says, a natural law that happens naturally, that he didn't make up, that is the law that runs the universe, like botany, then you have to learn the theories, right? So then again, my point is, if it is a valid system, like botany or like acupuncture, it has to be first theoretically coherent. Would you agree with that? Would you agree with that? But in the beginning you don't know, it's too small, you don't know what you know. And as you get more knowledge, you go, well, that relates to this, and that's that kind, that's this. So as you learn more the Buddha's view, that each piece fits in the big puzzle, it would surely do that if it is coherent. So you keep learning the theories, studying it, learning it, debating it, passing exams on it, if you like. But when it becomes experiential, that gives you already confidence. You can even teach botany to someone else. But when you put your hands on and start growing the garden is when it becomes experiential. And when you start to get single point of concentration and access a subtle level of your mind, that is a level of your mind that we don't posit as existing, that is not a function of your brain, that is a subtle level of your cognition, that has the capacity to cognize phenomena, the gross level of conceptuality and sensory consciousness can't, including the past and the future. Then you prove it. From your experience, you get clairvoyance. Can you hear me? That's all part of the system. It's up to you, you know. One step at a time, it's all there. And this is the really powerful point is this. Buddha, Mr. Siddhartha, Mr. whatever he was called at the time, a bloke. It's Australian slang for a man. He was a regular guy. You're a regular guy. He did all this job, and he proved it himself. He did it himself. So if he's a regular guy can do it himself, then that's pretty obvious that I can do it myself. It's proving it right there. If Einstein can realise relativity, and he's a regular guy, then so can I. I mean, you've got to work hard. But if he's a regular guy, that's why the difference between creator. You can't become like a creator. That is wrong. You've got to believe. That's why this fundamental philosophical view is not the Buddhist view. Are we communicating here? Or is there a but or a question? Say it. Huh?
It's
Think about
difficult to believe it's so easy.
What, darling?
It's difficult to believe it's so simple, so easy.
Well, I know because we're thinking we mystify because it's religion. And it's going to be a while before we do prove it, but you've got to start, be happy with the theoretical. Enjoy the theoretical. I'm only talking theoretically here. Believe me, I'm not clairvoyant. I'm telling you the theories. I enjoy these theories. Buddha might be wrong. I'm prepared to find out. But meanwhile, I'm enjoying myself. You see my point? And all I can... Anyway, that's that. So now let's go into the detail. I keep telling you, I'm promising, but I never do it. Now let's go into the detail. So the minimum, the basic principle of Buddha, of karma, first of all, like the basic principle of botany. You put a seed in the ground, you give it a bit of earth, a bit of water, a bit of warmth, a bit of time, you get a rose. That's the principle, right? Seeds bring fruits, okay? Let's use that analogy. Okay. So, given this view of consciousness being a beginningless and endless continuity of mental moments, which itself is insane if we have the view that you began in your mother's womb. This already is something shocking and absurd for us, isn't it? If you're a Christian or a Jew, you began in your mother's womb. Or I heard it's just before you get born and God puts the breath on you or something, or God blows on you. I mean, I'm not being rude. The Christian one is that the moment conception is when the soul goes. But in each case, think this point, please. In each case, you, Robina, Fred, whoever, began in mummy's womb. And one, either the view is that God put your breath there, or your soul, or your mummy made you. So in each case, there's this profound assumption that we believe in the depths of our bones, that we never question, that I began in mummy's womb. Do we accept this? Now, Buddha is shockingly different. Sorry, guys, he says. Your consciousness, Robina, not called Robina, this subtle, non-physical energy of yours goes back and to beginningless time, which is complete, even as I say it, instinctively we think it's absurd. And the reason we think it's absurd is because we all cling to things being causeless. We don't think we think that, but that's one of the deep delusions in our mind, believing there's no cause. That's why we have a feeling that everything's good luck and bad luck and no one knows why things happen. It's just the way things are. This is from our delusion of grasping at things as permanent and causeless. So, of course, that implies there has to be a beginning. When did it begin? When did I begin? When did karma begin? When did suffering begin? When did my anger begin? So we have to keep looking back, like with our therapist, for a needle in a haystack back somewhere then. When mummy did this to me, that's when my anger began. That's when my jealousy began. We have this deep instinctive belief in something having a beginning. So in the big picture point of view, as His Holiness said in one of all these conversations with the scientists, he said, Big Bang, no problem. Just not the first Big Bang, that's all. That's wonderful. So the Buddha's view, if we looked at the Vajrayana model, the physical universe is made of the 4 elements. Now, back in the Christian days, and probably the Jewish days, the universe was made of the 4 elements. Well, we have all these fancy elements now, different words for them. Do you understand? Science. But that's still the Buddha's view. There are the earth, air, fire, and water. The physical universe is the four elements. Then there are consciousnesses, trillions of mind streams, mental continuums, rivers of mental moments, individual mind streams. They even use that word. And these matter and consciousnesses for the Buddha are necessarily beginningless. Even as I say it, it feels weird. I'm just stating it as part of the theory, okay? Because logically he says you have no choice. You cannot by definition, if you posit cause and effect, which we all kind of know intuitively is true. You put this seed in the ground, you get a rose. If we looked at this cup, we know there are a series of causes. You learn the causes, you put it together, and you get a cup. Everything is this way. We call that science. He calls it the law of cause and effect. And everything that exists in the universe that we understand through our senses of the mind, they function according to this natural law of cause and effect and impermanence. Highly dynamic, natural law. So if everything is existing according to that natural law, including consciousnesses, including bodies, including trees and moons and stars and planets, then logically, that matter, the physical and the minds, okay, this moment of my mind, what is its main cause? A previous moment in the same continuity of mind. Okay, forget the mind, this cup. If we started analysing the cup, the causes, so the previous causes, before you know it, you go back and back, and then the oven was one of the causes that heated it all, that put it all together. Before that you break it down, you go back and there's water, and then you've got clay, and clay came from a mountain, and that mountain came from this. And if you track that mountain back, which is the substance of this cup, you keep going back. What was the cause of this clay the moment before that? What was the cause of that piece the moment before that? Millisecond by millisecond, inexorably, inevitably, logically, you will get back to the first moment of this universe, however far back it is. And then you have to ask the question, because the Buddha would say it's all configurations of the four elements. So clearly we can see it must, back to the first second of the universe, the four elements have subsumed down to the subtlest one, which is the wind element. This is how they describe the death process. We'll discuss it if we have time. So that subtle wind energy had its previous causes in previous imploded universes, no doubt. So you cannot ever logically find a moment of something that didn't have a previous cause. Therefore, everything that exists is necessarily beginningless. Logically, if we take the view of cause and effect. So Buddha would argue massively in the literature, because the Christians and Muslims and Jews would say that God is the main cause, and for Buddha that's like schizophrenic. I mean, he doesn't say that. It's another Greek word. Well, there's whole discussions about how you can't have an external, permanent, uncaused phenomenon create a thing that's separate from it. There's a whole massive discussion about that one. Anyway, so yeah, question, Betty.
You just mentioned the first cause. You said
That's what people think. I'm quoting it, not as a reality. Buddha says there's no such thing. But we think there's a first cause. We believe there's a first cause, and we want a first cause. And the Christian teaching, the Jewish teachings would say there is. But if you're a smarty pants kid, well, who created God? You're told to be quiet. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Not you. You always got a different view. Relax and hear the Buddha's teachings. She likes to put it all together, which is fantastic. You, darling. But you can do that. It's okay then.
What if God is consciousness,
Oh,
which
God
is
Almighty.
beginningless,
Sweetheart, just
beginningless and endless?
then it's
That is
then it's
God.
not God. Then it's just consciousness. And he's
Oh,
not,
no, it's a
and-
name.
Then if it's a name,
Consciousness.
then if it's just a name, make up what you like. Hoo-ha. You can call it hoo-ha, okay? You've got to have some logic to it, darling.
It's consciousness.
If it's consciousness, then that consciousness is the creator of itself. And that consciousness is not a creator of you. So what the hell's his function then? Why bother positing him? Come on. It's okay, I hear you, but think it through that one. Any questions about that? Yes.
I accept everything.
Oh, well, that's whatever you like. You can decide. You can, if you like.
She's afraid of you.
Everybody, listen, but stop here. Everybody says that. But don't blame me, that's your problem. People, I mean, as a little girl, I was told I was very naughty, but people said, oh, she's got a good heart.
Yeah.
So if you think I've got a good heart,
That's
then
what you
trust
say.
my heart, people. And don't be afraid.
We don't
But go on, what's your question?
Okay. There is, it's like between Hinduism and Buddhism.
Never mind the labels, tell me the thought. What's the question?
It's a Hindu story, a philosophical story, yeah?
Oh, don't make it too long.
and
I want a
causes.
question, darling.
It's,
I want a question.
Okay. איך אומרים?
I want a question.
Seed. Seed that did not ripen, okay?
What?
A seed, we use this botany.
Yeah, go on.
Okay,
Then good.
there's a seed that ripened and became a tree, and seed that did not
Yeah, so then,
ripen.
so the question from this is,
So the seed that did not ripen, it is karma that ended, or...
oh, we haven't got to the details yet. Wait, I haven't got there yet. I haven't even begun yet. Wait.
Okay.
Jumping and leaping ahead 47 steps. Yes, I'll get there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the beginningless, no beginning, no end. Right?
That's right. That's what the Mahayana view would say. The Hinayanas say there is an end to everything, and when you achieve nirvana, you disappear into space and there's nothing left. As the Dalai Lama said, we Mahayanas have a problem with that. Go on.
Isn't God the same kind of concept? Can't God be...
Yeah, the difference is this. The concept philosophically of how an energy called creator exists in the Buddhist analysis of it, and that's how they teach it. It's something permanent, which means it's not changing, and something that hasn't got a cause, and something therefore that's self-existent. In other words, it's permanent, uncaused, and is inherent. These are the discussions that Buddha has, that he argues with, which is where he diverged from the Hindus, and we'll get there when we talk about emptiness.
Okay, so but is the mind stream then not the same?
What?
The mind stream is then...
Which mind stream? Whose? They're individual ones.
Because it is like beginningless...
Your mind stream is beginningless and endless, yeah. Then,
So it is the same concept as what you just explained about God.
no, I just said my answer, but you didn't hear it, so I'll say it again.
Please.
Okay. Something being beginningless and endless does not mean the Buddhist view of permanent. It's a mistake, it's a confusing word. Alex Berzin uses the word abstract. So permanent in Buddhist language means not changing from moment to moment and not caused. So God is existing forever and eternity. Consciousness exists forever and eternity. Same principle. But the Buddhist argument with that view, which is the same energy of a soul, his argument is about the way it exists. And his argument is that that view, and they teach it that way, that it's unchanging and not caused. And Buddha says that's an impossibility. And all the discussions when it comes to emptiness are about that point, and we will get there. What's the other person's question? Some other question. Who was it? Nobody. Okay, let's go now. The details. In this beginningless continuity of mental moments. Okay. So Buddha's saying every millisecond of what we, let's say now, we are a mind possessor, a sentient being at this moment, and our consciousness is embodied, we can see that, and we're labelled a human, okay? But you've got sentient beings who are embodied as ants, dogs, fish, giraffes, kangaroos, then they're the ones we can see. We even know there are trillions of tiny creatures who are embodied, but we see them with a microscope. They're all the animal realm. The Buddha would posit many, many levels of existence. All mind possessors, all have got some level of physicality. These four elements, which all minds are inextricably linked to, all consciousnesses are inextricably linked to their own set of the four elements. This is taught especially in the Vajrayana, and that's the basis of Tibetan medical system. That the mind and the body, the physical energy, the elements and the mind are inextricably linked and interdependently connected. It's completely obvious, you know. So, for example, your Tibetan doctor, she'll feel your pulses. That's her expertise. And she'll feel the imbalance of certain wind energies, which she knows is related to your attachment. And that's why you're having anxiety and panic attacks. She will feel the certain wind energies that are linked to your anger, and she'll know that's why you're having explosive, fits. So the physical energies at the subtle level, which are the subtle level of the gross level, are inextricably linked to consciousness. This is such an interesting system. And the grosser level, the same. So we have gross body and gross consciousness, sensory and the gross conceptual. that we have subtle consciousness and subtle physical. That's the Vajrayana model, and this is the way the entire universe exists, you know. So, every millisecond of what we think and do and say and is programming us every second, or is leaving seeds in our consciousness every second, whether we're aware or not. And so that impacts, so first of all it leaves seeds in our mind that if they're labelled negative, and we're going to go into that precisely, what is a negative action by definition, then that will leave a seed in the mind similar to that energy. I mean, it's extremely subtle and sophisticated how it actually works technically, and that's super advanced, but it's all in the literature, and you'll get it through your experiences in meditation when you get advanced. This is the principle. That leaves seeds in your mind that will not go astray. Nothing goes astray. There's two, okay, will leave seeds in your mind that unless you pull them out, will grow and multiply and then bring 4 kinds of results. So a non-virtuous action, an action done with the body and speech, impelled by or motivated by one of the first category of states of mind, one of the negative ones, ego, attachment, anger, jealousy, whatever, will leave a seed in the mind and then can ripen in any of 4 ways in the future. This, for the Buddha, is a natural law. It is not punishment and is not reward, because Buddha is not a punisher or a rewarder. It's a natural law, like botany. So, the 4 ways that a positive, let's use a positive action. That's to say, let's say, an action of not killing, a strong, intentional decision to not kill that mouse in your kitchen. Let's look at an action that's called a complete action, that is an action that has 4 components in place when you do it, such that will leave a seed in, I like to refer to our bank vaults. We've got 4 bank vaults, well, actually 8. 4, in the 4 ways that karma ripens, the negative and positive ones, 2 of each, you know? So, clearly Buddha did not discuss bank vaults, okay? It's just my analogy. So everything we do in this, if there's a complete action of non-killing, the 4 things will be in place, and it'll drop seeds into my positive main bank vault, and that's the bank vault that of all the seeds, it will be the seed at the time of our past death, in our case, that caused us to be programmed to be born in our present mummy's human womb. Now, Hitler got one of those, didn't he? He was called a human, I presume. That was due to one of his many virtuous seeds in his positive bank vault. And given that we've got beginningless lifetimes, we've got lots and lots of seeds in our bank vaults, I promise. So, that's the first one. The second one is the tendency to not kill. Now, clearly, Hitler didn't have that one. He had the tendency to kill from what? The past tendency to kill. In the second bank vault, which is all your habits, all your tendencies, all your personality traits. And these 2 are triggered at the time of our past death, not more than 7 weeks before we came to our mummy's fallopian tube. This is why, from the Buddha's point of view, so clearly, your mummy and daddy didn't give you your tendencies. Little poor old Hitler's Austrian housewife mummy is not the cause of Hitler. That's a very big burden for her to carry. We love to blame mummies. Where else do you go in the physical world? Where else do you go with the philosophical materialist philosophical view? Mummy and daddy are the blame, because they made you, isn't it? What can we do? It's kind of heavy. And you certainly can't blame God. So the third bank vault is called experiences, similar to the cause. So that's, in our life, we can see we are very social beings, right? We are always around sentient beings, and we have since beginningless time interacted with each other. And if you think very simply, the world consists of people who are kind to you, people who are mean to you, and they change roles, I agree, and then 99.99% are strangers and they do neither. This is everybody's life. The monkeys, the cats, the dogs, the humans. We have enemies, friends and strangers. So by definition, an enemy is a person who's mean to you, right? You agree? But it could be your friend. So that's an experience. Let's say a person kills you. That's in the third category. One of the third bank vaults, the third one called experiences similar to the cause of killing in the past, that you'll get killed by somebody. And karma's pretty personal, honey. You know? All the people who got slaughtered by Hitler must have had a very strong karma connection with that guy. 1,000 lifetimes ago, who knows? And all the people who were doing his job, you know. Clearly, intense karma between these two groups. Clearly. You couldn't meet people who haven't harmed you before and have them harm again. And there's no way a person can be kind to you before if you haven't met them before and they haven't been kind to you before. Karma is a natural law. A natural law. It's not punishment. It is not reward. It is a natural law. It just occurs. Which is why we'd better learn it. If you want a decent garden, you'd better learn botany, honey. Believing it's not enough. The fourth bank vault, the fourth result of non